Hi, welcome back to our third session of the day, everyone. I'm Nora McKenzie. I'm a member of the Business Reference and Academic Libraries Committee for BRASS and the co-chair of the Symposium subcommittee alongside my fabulous co-chair, Christy Cunningham. We also have an excellent subcommittee that is helping make this entire program work. And that subcommittee is Angel Truesdale, Brian Garrison Wynn, and Doris Dwee. So all of our sessions today will be recorded and sent out to anybody who's registered. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and mute your audio and your video as we get started. Thank you again for spending time with BRASS today and our presenters. We're excited you've stuck around for our third great session. As a reminder, we have some great sessions tomorrow as well. So I am actually the moderator of this session, so I will transition into that hat. So I'm so excited to introduce to you today Jennilyn, Wiley, and Emily Sahib. They are from Auburn University, and they will be presenting on how to scale up a pop-up library by tapping internal and external collaborators. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you.
Hi, Nora. Thank you. So we have a QR code on the screen right now, and also I think Nora's going to put a link into chat. But just either way, you can get into the slides that we're using as we're going through this. Okay. Oops. Okay. So yes. So we are not going to talk about AI, unlike the first two sessions, even though that was super interesting. We're going a different route. We're doing old school in-person things. But we're talking about a pop-up library, and I am the only business librarian for the college, and I had limited event skills prior to doing this. So, one of my goals is really to make sure that other people that might be in a situation like me know that there are ways to kind of tap internal and external collaborators to get those skill sets that you don't have. So Emily and I will introduce ourselves to start with. I'm the one on the left, but I am the Business, Entrepreneurship, and Economics Librarian. And that is housed within our Research and Instruction Services Department in the library here at Auburn. I started in August of 2021, hard to believe, almost 4 years ago. And a fun fact about me is that I secretly love when our mascot, Obby, wears his ugly Christmas sweater, because it is literally an ugly AU Christmas sweater. It has AU colors and AU designs on it. So that is my fun fact today.
Pretty fabulous. And I'm Emily Sahib. I'm the outreach administrator for a different department. It's called the Innovation and Research Commons. I also started in August of 21. And my fun fact is that I have a little whippet named Flash, who's 18 months old. And I just love him so much.
Yes. We're pausing for everybody to be like, oh, the dog is so cute. Yes. So that's a little bit about us. So right off the bat, you can see we're in different places within the library. So almost immediately I had to tap people outside of my area. But we're going to start by asking just a few questions. And so we're using Slido as opposed to Mentimeter, but it works exactly the same. And I think that Nora's going to go ahead and pop in the chat, the slido.com. But once you're on slido.com, then you can just go ahead and use the Obby hashtag. So while she's doing that, I'm going to flip over to Slido.
And it's just 2 questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So we'll go ahead and we'll ask our first question. So we'll get an idea of how many people are here and participating.
Yes. That's right. So our very first question is, have you ever held a library pop-up? Yes, no, or no, but you want to? We love that one.
Yeah, so we'll give people a few minutes to...
Yeah, about 30 seconds or so, actually. Thank you all for everybody who's participating.
Let's see what we've got here.
Oh, okay. That's great. So a lot, most no, but several want to. So you are in the right place.
Yeah, I'm excited between people who've done it and people who are like, I want to.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
You're in the right place.
So our next question is, what skills do you think are needed to hold a library event?
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a pop-up. It can just be any kind of event.
Any skill set that you think, and you can do multiple answers.
Yes.
And we're going to have a word cloud.
So we'll let a few people get there. We'll see the word cloud start to develop.
It's always fun.
Wow. I feel like you guys are nailing it as a group. Like,
Yeah, you really are.
coming from knowledge management, right? They always say the smartest person in the room is the room, right? It's not any one person, it's the collectiveness. But yes, and so I think we're going to talk about some of these skills.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The organization, collaboration, communication, marketing, and, people. I think this is wonderful. You guys are spot on.
And we're going to talk about where you can find these skills in the library, because I'll tell you, I did not have all these skills when I started to do this. All right. So we're going to start off by just talking a little bit about the Harbert College of Business, which is the business college at Auburn. So a little bit like Chuck did for Vanderbilt, giving you kind of the high points. But it is our largest college based on student enrollment. That has not always been the case. It happened around the time I got here, where we overtook engineering. But you can see that they have a really high growth rate over the last 10 years. The majority of the students, 86% of them, are undergraduates, and almost all of our undergraduates are on campus. So when you're thinking about like an in-person event, that's really who we were targeting for our in-person event. However, I will say that even though that was like the goal, we absolutely had grad students, we had faculty, and we had staff show up and check out books as well. So they were equally excited. And I think one thing that is really key to know as we talk about this, so you can see this is our mascot, Obby. If you've never seen him before, he's not in the ugly Christmas sweater. He's business Obby right now. But the building behind him is the building where we held our pop-up library. And what's really important to know about that building is the last bullet point there, which is it's a 10-minute walk from the library. So we have a little map here just to kind of orient you to campus. You can see where our stadium is, our library is over on the right there. You can kind of see the walk you would take over to the College of Business, and that is a good 10-minute walk. And so that is one of the biggest complaints I hear from my undergrads about why they don't come to the library that much, is because it's so far. And to be fair, if you have classes stacked together, you can't get to the library and back in between your classes. So there's two buildings up here that make up the business complex. HHH is the building that we were in on the ground floor in the atrium. That's why there's a little star there. And then also you'll see this is the parking lot behind those two buildings. And the reason that's important is that stack of books right there, that denotes that we have a book drop where you can return books for the library right there in between business and engineering. And that was honestly a huge seller in getting students to check out books, because they're like, wow, I can check it out now and I don't have to go to the library to return it. That's awesome. So yeah, so that's just kind of our orientation to how things are set up. So then the next thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is just how this kind of all came to fruition, how it started. And so our big project goal when I started this was looking for kind of a creative outreach idea. When I first started, I was kind of warned that the library and the College of Business didn't really interact a whole lot, and they were kind of like a lone wolf, and they kind of did their own thing. So I was looking for a way to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. And so I think it's important to know that the library had kind of a different motivation than what we used to sell the pop-up library. Internally, our motivation was, all the research that's out there, and I have linked to a nice article. It's a little bit older, but it summarizes a lot of the research out there on like, what actually happens when people read books. And so you can see these are some of the things that Duan talks about. Obviously at the library, these are all things that are important to us, but I wasn't entirely sure that I could sell it that way. Beyond earning potential, I was like, all right, I'm gonna need a different way to sell this externally to the College of Business. And so from a sales perspective, externally, what we did is we looked at it as a way to support students as they were going into networking opportunities, as they were interviewing for jobs and internships, and as they were starting those jobs. And so one of the things we told the students is, as opposed to saying that you're into lifelong learning, right? You want to demonstrate that you have this skill by telling them that you're doing independent reading, right? And showing that initiative to learn. And then also they can take some of the insights that they're learning in these books and they can apply those insights on the job. So that's more how we sold it to them. As far as an idea timeline, I started conceptualizing this about when I started in fall of 2021. I'm old school. So internally, when I was talking to people to try to get everybody on board, I think it's always great to use a story, something where people can easily envision the concept that you're trying to get across. And so at the time I was referring to it as bookmobile to business. Yeah. I think as librarians and people in the library, we all know what bookmobiles are. So that worked as an envisioning concept. And then in spring of 2023, I attended Sociable, which is the Southern Business Librarians Conference. And I got the opportunity to see a presentation by Jennifer Horn, she was in all the earlier sessions. Is she still here? Yes. So shout out to Jennifer Horn. We've linked out to her presentation. She has great pictures that show how she did her event.
Look at it.
And so when I saw her do this presentation, I was like, oh my God, I can do this. Somebody has done this. I can do this. This is possible. That is what I got from listening to Jennifer. And so also the other thing I got from Jennifer was that I needed to update my branding. Bookmobile was maybe not going to resonate with kids today. So she talked about it being a pop-up library. So I rechristened my idea as a pop-up library as well. And then the other thing I got out of this, and I'm sure Jennifer's like, I had no idea you got so much out of this. But for the next year, as I was trying to get everybody on board with this, I was able to use what she had done at the University of Kentucky as proof of concept for my various stakeholders. Like all I had to say was, this might be new to us. We've never done this before, but this is not a new idea. It's actually being done by our peer institutions in the SEC. And then people were like, sure, let's do it. So that's kind of the timeline of how the idea started to come about. And as I mentioned earlier on, I don't have all the skills needed for an event, which is where Emily comes in. And since I've been talking a lot, I'm going to turn it over to Emily now.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so as you saw in the word cloud, collaboration is most definitely key. And
oh, sorry.
No problem.
I was so excited to look at the picture. I forgot my job of scrolling.
All right. Okay. So like Jennilyn said, we do need to identify some of our, internal stakeholders and the external to the library. And so of course, internally, we've got our circulation department. We have to actually scan people's Tiger cards in order to check out books. And so we can't write down barcodes. We can't write down anything. So we had to have them on board. We had to have our technical services on board to buy the books in a very fast and process them quickly. We had to have other liaison libraries on board because it is a long event and you need as many people on your side as you can possibly have. We had to have graphic design help or just find how we're going to do it, which was she and I did, Jennilyn and I did it. We had to have our director of communications on board to allow us to, put out information across the university as well as do some purchasing. And of course, our dean needed to be on board. And you notice how we put her last on there. If we have everybody lined up.
That is super strategic to put her last.
It's easier to get a yes when you have all the pieces lined up and you can answer the questions.
Yes, she could fully envision the concept by that point.
She's too busy to, so we just needed to make it very simple to say yes. And so externally, of course, the College of Business had to give us permission to come in. We worked with them. We had several meetings to plan this out. When would be the best time to come in? We had to have, Jennilyn had to go through the Office of Communications and Marketing to get, she created some bespoke bookmarks for this specific event, and so they had to be approved
because they have the AU logo.
They have the AU logo. You all are probably familiar with that. And then, of course, we had to find a vendor that would allow us to work with them.
Yeah, so I think collaboration is very important, right? Talking to the right people at the right time, getting people on board, not taking no for an answer. Like I would always be like, I'm not asking you for permission to do this. Like I'm telling you this is going to happen.
In a nice way.
And I'm asking you to help me figure out how we can make that happen. Yeah, like I'm not just gonna go away if you say no. But I think another thing that is really important, at least it was for us, is collection development.
Yes.
We have had a lot of turnover in my role. And because of that, I don't know that our popular business books collection was really up to date when I got here. And I'll be honest, I will refer to that as popular business because I think we all know what that means. I don't like that name. I prefer to refer to this as the practitioner's collection. This is what business is reading. This is what they should be reading. This is what people in the field need to know. I think it does a disservice to our business students to call it popular and not practitioner, but that's what we're talking about. So, you got to be really candid with yourself. How up to date is your collection? And you might need to buy some books. And for me, it took a few years in order to use my book funds to buy the books I wanted. And speaking of the books, right? What did I use? I used booklets from Titans in the Field. So these are, I'm sure, ones a lot of you are familiar with. The Financial Times Best Business Books of the Year list, and then also the JP Morgan Chase Summer Reading List. Because, you know, business is impressed by names, right? They like to name drop. And I knew I could tell them to read something, but if JP Morgan Chase said to read it, that they might actually read it. Also, you want to find out what your library does with your book covers. And so if you're looking at our visual here, you'll notice the books that are more toward the right, those actually have covers. So those are ones that I ordered. And I found out that we were just throwing them away. So I asked like if they could keep them. So like every Go-Be order I put in, there's a comment that's like, keep the covers for Jennilyn. You'll notice the books on the left don't have covers. That's because those were ordered by someone else or they came in on our approval plan. So I didn't have covers to be able to save for those books. But we certainly tried to save the covers every place we could. I have like an entire drawer in my office that just has covers in it for events like this. They're definitely a big selling point. I know our dean, when she first saw it, she was like, ooh, really impressed by the covers. And the students love the covers. Like we legitimately had a student that was absolutely crushed when we took the cover off and checked the book out to them, because students today are visual and they want to like hold up the book and show you what they're reading. So we're working on that, but yeah. And then also I just want to mention that like after the first one, so we started to have some success. I also brought over for the second one what we call business origin stories. And so like Emily and I were talking about the fact, like there is literally a book that tells you about the story of flaming hot Cheetos and how they became a thing. And it's really pretty cool. You know, I like the book about Lego and how Lego does what Lego does. So stories like that are pretty popular as well. So that's collection development that you need to think about.
That's right. Okay. So then, of course, we need to get people to come to this event, right? And so that means a lot of graphic design, as we said earlier. Now, we are an Adobe campus, and so we have access to Adobe Express. And so to make all of the different sizes for social media and our digital signage and even our printed signs, all of these are different sizes. The size that we need for our internal news site that goes out to all of our students, AU Involved, that's a very specific size that you won't find anywhere else. And same with our website. So we had probably 7 or 8 different sizes that we had to make things. And so Adobe Express was really easy for us to use, but Canva will do the same thing. And so if you don't have an Express account, you can do this in Canva, I do recommend sharing it and getting feedback before you just design all of them. Now, we did have printed signs. We were lucky enough that we have a large format printer and we have a makerspace. And so we were able to print the signs that we were going to use during the event to draw people in, and then we could mount them to foam board using some like spray adhesive. And then lastly,
and for those, we thought really hard about making them
yes,
like usable for every event.
Yes, yes. No dates were on there. No times were on there. We knew that Jennilyn was going to continue to use the 2 book lists, and so we put those on there. But if we put any of our logos, we had to make sure that they were put on there in a way that we would be allowed to continue to use them. And so they do have the proper Auburn hex values for our colors and everything. Now, at the bottom there, we alluded to earlier the bespoke bookmarks, and Jennilyn had to go through our, Office of Communications in order to make these. But first, she had to have them approved internally through the library and then approved externally. And that took some time. And so if you're going to do something like that, she needed several months in advance. And then lastly, just work within the protocols of your institution. You heard us allude to, you got to have your logos, so many inches from the edge. And so also, at our university, we're not allowed to put flyers on walls here anywhere. If you put a flyer on a wall, your dean is getting a phone call, and that's not good for anybody.
Fines can happen. Like yes, they are serious.
They're very, very serious about that. And so we could not just go around and paper everything. And so we use digital signage for everything. And of course, we had to see, you know, what are the rules for our College of Business. We can't just go in there and set up shop. We had to have them on board with us doing an event and book it, and, you know, have their event staff on board with it as well.
Which, if you do look at Jennifer's slides, which I recommend that you do, she was able to do hers in a like smaller, more informal scale. We realized pretty quickly at Auburn that that was not going to happen. In fact, I linked to, you know, some of our rules just to give you an idea of how strict they are here and the types of things that maybe you don't know that your own institution has, and you should look those up first, which is why it's always helpful to have somebody from outreach or marketing involved, because they kind of already know these things. But yeah, so when we realized like we weren't going to be able to do small and informal, it was going to have to, you know, be formal. We're like, okay, it's College of Business. They want to go big. Yeah, it got big really fast, but you never know until you ask.
That's
sometimes.
Right.
So
that's right.
Yeah. All right, so now Emily's gonna start by telling us a little bit about the day of the event. And so there, I think I see some people there that look familiar.
That's right. And it's in a different location because this is our second go around. So on the day of, you can see that we're wearing very eye-catching shirts. And so these are our event shirts. And so these are given to us from the library. And of course, you know, War Eagle is our battle cry here. And so it goes War Eagle to War Dam Eagle to War Dam Library. And so the students absolutely love it when they see these shirts. They want to buy them. And so this will help them to like bring them over to our table. Also, we want to make sure that just how we stack our books looks really appealing. Jennilyn went through all this effort to get these covers. So let's really show them off. And so you can kind of see in the picture that we've got them stacked so that you can see the spines. We've got some really interesting ones face out. We also paired them with other offerings. So it wasn't just books. Our university gives our students free Wall Street Journal subscriptions. And so not all of the students know about this. And so we had postcards and other Wall Street Journal swag there. The pens are really, really good. It's our favorite. And so, you know, hey, have you gotten your Wall Street Journal account, free Wall Street Journal account set up yet? Is a great way to get them to come on over. We also had information about, you know, Adobe, and then we paired it on a day where there was going to be a food truck out front, because where there's food, there are students, right? Lastly, we just had to be as bold as possible. And that's not hard for me. It's not hard for Jennilyn because we're pretty extroverted, but not everybody is. And so we came out with her bookmarks in hand because, as we'll show you later, on the back of them had all the information about these book lists, and they could get to them, and she had them all linked online. And so if they had the bookmark, they had all the information that they would need. So if nothing else, if we say, hey, have a bookmark, most people will take something if you hand it to them. Or do you have your free Wall Street Journal subscription?
But like Emily said, it was really important to be proactive, because if you've been around students at all, right, during classes, they got their earbuds in and they are actively not looking at you.
Well,
so you have to be like willing to put yourself out there and kind of get in their way in order to get their attention.
Yeah. And location was really important.
Yes.
You can see this is a different location where what you can't see is in front of us is a large staircase. And this is where all the students come down from their classes. And then off to the side is an exit, is a door, one of the main doorways.
It goes to the other building.
Yeah, it goes to the other building. And so we had a lot of traffic here. At our first one, we didn't have that this location wasn't available to us. And it's in the same building, it's in the same atrium. It is just literally around the corner, and it made a really big difference, in my opinion. We also were closer to power in this one. So
power is important if you're bringing like something to check people out.
Yeah, very important.
I will say also too, like as far as timing, like our first event, right? We not only did we do it with a food truck, but we did it intentionally about a month before they were going to start having their career fairs. And we told students, like, if you want something to talk about during the career fair, get a book. Yeah. And for the second one, we paired it closer to spring break. So it's like, you know, it's a great time to take a book home and read. And we got that from Jennifer too. We totally stole that from Jennifer.
Thank you.
Yes. So I think that, like, from my perspective, right, because I did not have event management experience going into this, I think it's really important to know that something will go wrong. Like, you should just know that. So don't freak out, put on your problem solving hat, start to think about how can we work within the confines of what just happened. So like earlier, Emily talked about having a lot of people. This is one of the reasons it's good to have a lot of people, because people will and did for us call out sick. And you have to be willing to go with that. You have to have somebody else, right, that you can work with. Also, technology will misbehave. That happened in both of them.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have your IT on standby. Make sure they know you're doing the event. Make sure they know when the event is happening. Make sure they know where you are, because they might not have been to that building before, and they are going to need to know where you are if they have to come over and fix something. So I think those are some good things to know. Now, I'm sure you all want to kind of know how it went, right? So as we start to come into the outcomes, right, you'll see we consider this successful. I'm using business speak here, right? It's how students speak, right? Very few words and exclamation points. The more exclamation points, the happier they are.
Yeah.
So yes, we thought this was super successful. Both times we checked out around 20 books, which is a lot more than those books check out when they're just sitting on the shelves here in the library. We didn't take the exact same books both times. We didn't take the same amount. So it was anywhere from a quarter to a third of the books we brought checked out. And we did have 5 books that checked out at both events. And I think it's really important to like kind of keep track of stuff like that, so you know what to bring for future ones. We also, in our second one, had the dean of the college dropped by.
Yeah.
And we were kind of excited because as she was looking at some of the books, she was like, oh yeah, this is on my to be read list.
That's right.
So we kind of felt like we nailed it in terms of what books we should be bringing if she's saying they're on her TBR list.
She gave us some.
Yes, and she also was telling us, I would like to see more leadership books next time. And it's like, we can do that. We can absolutely bring those books.
Oh yeah, and we'll label them and whatnot. And then right after the event, maybe not that day, but the next day, we want to make sure that, you get a good debrief with everybody who was involved with this. What went right? What can you do better? Maybe what went wrong? It's not saying anything negative about you or how, your organizational skills. It really is just every single time we can iterate on this, we can make it even better. And you can see in this picture, we had some technology that we paired with it to be able to, we have books, we've got, other swag, and now we have some of our technology lending items, because if we can check things out, why not also allow them to check out, cameras and voice recorders. Oh, right. I was looking at a question that popped up. Okay. And then also you got to thank everybody, and not just thank them in person. You got to thank them in writing publicly. So we have an internal newsletter, and Jennilyn went through and she thanked every single human who had anything to do
Didn't
at
matter how
all.
small. It could have been very small, but
small.
yeah,
and they're not in any specific order or whatnot. It's just thank everybody, thank the College of Business, thank the event staff, thank everybody, because you want to be invited back.
You want people to help you again.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, and also too, we provided stats to the College of Business, so they would know like how successful it was or not.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they really liked seeing that.
And then one thing I will mention that I learned is, so our circulation department, like they want to know what is happening to their books, even though like, Emily and I were there with the books, right? They want to know what books are we taking. So they want to make sure they either got checked out or they came back.
Yeah.
So we have a temporary location tag that they use for that. And so what we learned after not doing this the first time is that if we get them to run a report while the books are still tagged to that location, we can very easily see what checked out. So we know that for later on. If you don't do that, then you are stuck looking through all the checkouts that happen at all locations over like a 4-hour period, which you have to know your books pretty well then to know which books you brought over. So I think this is definitely an advantage.
Process, order of operations.
And then as far as next steps?
Yeah, I mean, you got to get that commitment before you leave that you're going to come back, and go ahead and get another meeting on the books to be able to plan for the next one. We're planning for the fall pop-up this summer, and there are a few things that we need to have, do differently. We want to go ahead and lock down this location because we love it. So make sure you get that commitment before you head out.
Yeah, like when we started this, we asked for a commitment for 1 per semester for the first 2 semesters.
Oh yeah.
And then before we even left the second one, we're like, let's commit
be back
to just doing this once a semester.
That's right.
Yeah.
And their
So-
dean said yes.
And then I guess the other thing that we're kind of thinking about right now is we're trying to find a more permanent home for this collection that
Yes.
we've created, because right now those books are literally spread out across all 4 floors of the library. So if you can get a student to come over here 10 minutes, like I can't ask them to spend 10 minutes spelunking through the stacks to try to find these books that are important to them. So that is also something that we're kind of working on as well.
And getting the covers Mylar
Yes,
and put
yes.
on there permanently.
Yeah, so the students can show you what they're reading.
Yes, and I can Mylar things. I come from a public library setting, so I can do this.
You know, before we open it up for questions, I'll just say that Emily and I, we put our emails here, and again, Jennifer's contact information is in her presentation earlier. So reach out to any of us about, you know, whether it's smaller and more informal, it's bigger, more formal, it's both of them, you can do that. And then the other thing we have here is just showing you the bookmarks I created. So like in this first picture, the top bookmark is the library bookmark that we have always had. And so I use that to model my bookmark after. And then the bottom picture, the one on the left, again, that is the library's bookmark. So we looked at it and we decided, well, what do business students really need to know? Yeah. And we tailored it to them. And so, for instance, one of the things we put at the top there is that they can return at the book drop in the Louder parking lot, which again, that was key for them. So just to kind of show you how you could take something that exists and just easily modify it to be targeted towards your group. And you will notice like everything here, we have shortcut links on it. So no matter who's the business librarian, no matter what the help is for LibGuides, right? Like these shortcuts can link out whatever. Yeah, because I will have these bookmarks until I go through them all. They are it.
They will reorder more.
Yeah.
And you notice how they are very similar, and that is because we have to make it easy for people to say yes and let us go through. And we knew that the other bookmarks had been approved. And so if we keep a similar design and we keep the palette, the way
similar colors, similar font. Yeah, because font, you got to use the Auburn font.
And that's been updated and everything.
So anyways, that's kind of what we have.
Well, there are some questions, but I think it got answered. And one of the questions was that they, you know, one of our they already have access to the Wall Street Journal. How do I get free stuff? And I think Jennifer replied. And so I think we're good on that.
I think whoever your contact is that deals with them, like I know our colleague, he could just reach out and ask for more stuff. Although realistically, we've decided the only thing we want going forward are the pens.
Like, we want the pens and the postcards.
Like those are the ones people take. Yeah.
And then I think that's the only other question that we have in the chat so far.
I will also say we really encourage you, if you grab the slides, or they're going to come out, when they send out all the slides for everything, to really look at the pictures that we put in here, because you can really see like what are some of the things that we gave out, how did we set things up. Yeah.
Right.
So
that's all we have for our presentation. Do you all have any, what questions do you all have for us?
Oh, I also forgot to mention that.
Never mind.
I did link out to the book lists that we're using again, so you can actually see the LibGuide that I have. But I'm going to be honest with you, like no LibGuide is really going to replace having books at a table. Like they just don't get the same amount of hits.
No, it's true. It's true. It's nice to have that on, the description on there, but the cover. So just Google image that and print it off. And you don't have to have permission for that because we're not selling them.
No. We're not even letting them take it with them.
Nope. I'm just looking through. Well. Oh, hang on now. Okay. Related to our idea of putting these in one place in the library, Marcella has, that's okay, created a business trends collection. The books retain their covers and they have a sticker on the spine.
I'm sorry if you can see the fact that there's a gas leak on campus. So sorry about that.
Oh my, it's not here though. So we're okay.
Yeah.
And that's at UPenn. That's really cool. Oh yes, that's coming up on my computer now. We have a gas leak.
I'm assuming because I shared my screen that like everybody,
No, we're good. It's not right here. And so, okay.
It won't let you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
Let's see.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you know what?
I can't see the chat anymore.
We literally practice for everything except for an AU alert.
So we'll put the chat up here because I can't look at it anymore.
Let's see.
I will read out if any other chats come in. I think we have two folks who have done different but similar things at their institutions. So
I
nothing
love it.
so far.
Thank you.
I'll keep an eye. Any other questions for our presenters or comments?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for those who have done it, like if there's anything we missed,
Oh, tell us.
yes, jump in and tell us.
We want to add food if we can, like snacks. or
Yeah, we didn't even
something.
think to ask for that.
Well,
I did not think to
you
ask
have
for
to
that.
ramp up. You know. So because it happens during lunch also. Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Well, if you all, how to display ebooks with QR codes.
You know what? I focused mainly on physical books for this, in part because a lot of the books I was looking at on the list I used didn't have ebook versions, at least at the time I got them. Because, you know, for some of these, like Emily was saying, we were asking our tech services people to process them because we're like, hey, JP Morgan Chase just put out their summer list. I ordered these books. They've come in. You need to process these so I can take them this first week of the semester. So, you know, it's possible a lot of them have ebooks now, but they didn't at the time.
Right. Yeah. But
So-
we did find that students were really interested in coming over and just opening the books and flipping through them and looking at them. And some of these origin stories, you know, they would have, you know, images in there, you know, like glossy pages and whatnot. And so they, I think that they really liked the tactile.
Yes, Jennifer, that's an excellent point, that students are very
regular
surprised. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
we do. They're not all.
Well, and the
Academic.
other thing they were a little surprised by is that we were telling them, like, if they were getting this for networking or for an interview, we're like, you don't necessarily have to read the whole book,
No, they
right?
were
Like you
shocked
could
at
just
that.
like pick a few chapters that seem interesting to you
Yeah.
and read those chapters. And I literally think they were shocked that a librarian was telling them, you don't have to read the whole book.
We all agreed. I mean, there were 5 or 6 librarians standing there, and we said, this is true. Some books you do need to read front to back, and then others you don't have
You don't have to, yeah. So Victoria is asking how many people came by the table. And I want to say that like we did a great job of taking like hash marks for our first one. We did a terrible job on the second one.
That's
of that.
right.
But I want to say we had over 100 contacts
Yes.
in the first one.
We
And
did.
if we checked out 20, we had at least a handful more people that browsed, even if they
Mhm.
didn't check out.
Mhm. If they walked over and they touched a book, they got counted.
But I mean, for most of them, like if you could get them to pick up a book and start asking
Mm-hmm.
you questions about it, they checked something out.
Mhm. And that number does not include the number of people who I halfway accosted with bookmarks.
Jennifer, I love this because we actually just started
Wonderful.
popular reading, like fiction, not business, right?
Yeah, just popular.
And like one of the things we're looking at for our permanent home is trying to put our popular business books together with the popular fiction books because they're all popular reading books. And I was impressed to see that at your library, at least on the LibGuide, you guys have one LibGuide that has it all together.
Yes.
And I was like, that's
Like
what we
that.
want. Yes.
Yes.
So let's see, Chuck. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Pop up for Women's History Month, Women in Business. I love it.
Yeah, and I think, like Emily said, it really kind of depends on your personality. Like for anybody who knows me, you know, like I don't have a problem going up to people and talking to them. I literally think at one point I went around with the Wall Street Journal cards and gave one to every single student that was sitting there studying
That's right.
in the
That's right.
atrium.
That's right. And they can
so,
take it with them or not, but most of them did take it with them. And if you're not good at it, someone you know is good and at that. And it could be another professor who you work with. It could be someone from a student group. And so we're trying to work with another student group for our next one, just so that we can have, you know, more student buy-in. And so,
Yes,
you know, and they
yeah.
listen to each other. And so students, you know, might be a good way to go about this.
We also had a number of faculty that like when we told them we were doing this,
Yeah.
they like they told their students in
Right.
class. Like
We
that
made a
means a lot
PowerPoint.
to them when their
Yeah.
professors tell them.
Right. And we made a PowerPoint slide that
Yeah.
they would be able just to add into their next presentation.
Yeah, so I think Jennifer put a link out to her popular
Excellent.
reads.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Jennifer. It's fantastic. We had so much fun, if you can't
Yes.
tell, and we want to keep doing it.
Yeah, I gotta say, like for me, especially because I'm not co-located in the College of Business and I don't do events normally, I don't get to see the students a whole lot except for the ones that are in the classes that I teach in. So to me, this is very exciting to go out and mingle with the students. And I tried to bring a lot of the librarians with me that typically do get a chance to get out there and mingle at events. Because again, they're just like super comfortable doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of their job.
Yes. Any other questions or comments?
It might be toward the end. Have you shared ideas for how to add what I'm reading into email signatures? Oh, well, that is interesting. We have not.
We have not. I have started
Done
to
that.
on my reading list. Like what I want to do is get some of the different faculty members to give me a list of books and then put with their name. These are books that they recommend because again, that means a lot more to the students than when I tell them to read something. Not sure why, but it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no,
I
like
do
that.
have one professor who does an extra credit assignment with reading. She has like 10 books. They're all leadership type books. And so I do have her name and her books out there, and those we actually do have hard copy and ebooks available for the students. And yeah, so that's probably the closest to what someone is reading. But yeah.
And something just popped in my head that we didn't really touch on much is that on this first pop-up event that we did, all the books were sort of mixed in together, all the different genres and whatnot. And so for all of us who were not business librarians, it was a little hard for us to recommend, like, hey, do you have a book on, that's, more like financial or whatnot. And so that's when Jennilyn on the second one, she created that business origin sign and the origin story sign. And then on the other side, we had, yes. And so, and then based on the dean's advice, she wanted more leadership books. And so we'll make another sign that says leadership, and then we'll probably break it out even further.
Potentially going off of what like Carmen said, we could do something where we reach out to specific faculty members and we ask them if they could recommend a few books.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We have like this is what so-and-so who is in supply chain recommends that you read. This is what,
like stores do that all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different possibilities for this event.
And we also, like piggybacking off what Emily said, we did make sure that we provided the list of all the books to everybody who was staffing the event before the event the second time around. And like, fortunately for most of them, if you read the title and the subtitle, you can kind of gather what the book is about.
And read the back of the cover.
So, but it is interesting with some of the students, like they think we've read all of these books, right? So they're like, what did you think? Which is your favorite? And then also too, sometimes they're like, do you have a book that's, like popular about data analytics? Like I want the story of data analytics, not like how do you do it, but just like a popular, and it's like, okay, I didn't really think someone would ask me about that, but I will look for that. Yeah.
We'll get that for you. You know it.
All right.
I think
we're about our time, Nora, right?
You have 1 or 2 minutes if you have any last thoughts to wrap up with, but yeah.
I think we're thought it out.
Like we really hope, like I hope that I have done for someone what Jennifer did for me when I saw her presentation, right? Because that was really the thing that spurred me to be able to get this to happen. Even though I've been thinking about it, it made it happen. So I really hope that, we're paying it forward, Jennifer, to like the next person. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jennilyn and Emily. It was really exciting and really fun to see all the pictures too. Thanks for incorporating that, because I think that really brings it to life for all of us. And it looks like a lot of folks in the chat feel the same way. So we really appreciate your time and sharing your insights. Thank you to Jennifer Horn for bringing the inspiration.
Thank you.
We couldn't have done it without her. Yeah. Although secretly, like our goal was just to check out more books than she did. Because, SEC is very competitive with one another. And we're like, we want to beat Kentucky. We just do. Like, we're definitely not going to do it in football. So maybe we could do it in a pop-up library.
It's good to have that healthy competition between our libraries.
Yes, right, I'm glad that you think it's doable, Joy. That was the goal.
Yeah. Make it big or small. So thank you.
Well, Angel, if you want to go ahead